AI is not going to take your job. It's the guy who's using AI who's going to take your job. So my thing is like, you just need to learn about it and use it as a tool. It is a great tool.
Yeah. One of the original people that would like blog about blogging, and it always felt too meta for me because it's like, but you're doing the thing that you're talking about doing, and that's actually, but it was working for him, and he did amazing at it. I mean, he was a really well-known thought leader in that space.
Let's just go to like, you're starting a podcast. I would really think hard about doing video with it, even though that kind of makes people cringe inside and it's hard. Hey, ChatGPT, I'm talking about this, this, and this. What questions am I not asking?
Yes.
And it came out with one, and I used one, and the guy stopped, and he didn't know I, did this, but he goes, no one's ever asked me that question.
Today's episode of The Pro Guide is brought to you by Small Pond Productions, the producers of this podcast. If you're looking to boost your brand's voice with professional end-to-end podcast production, whether it's an interview show or telling stories with audio, we walk you through every step of the process to make you sound great. Head to our website and download the free Podcasting Made Simple guide. 8 critical things you need to know before launching your brand's podcast. It's all available at smallpond.productions.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Pro Guide. We are so excited to be hanging out with Jeff Sieh, and he is the head of Social Media News Live, and brand new show comes out every Friday, 10 a.m. You said Central?
Yes.
Central.
That's correct.
Jeff's just an amazing person with a lot of good stuff happening with his business. Highly recommended by our mutual friend Ryan. And I know that anybody that Ryan says is amazing is definitely so. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jeff. I'm grateful to have you on the show.
Man, I'm so stoked that you invited me. I'm excited to talk with you. And yeah, Ryan is a good guy. He constantly is He's the only one I know who uses Marco Polo. And I know that's Ryan. He's coming at me. So yeah, I was helping him this week already.
It's Voxer for me. So I wonder if he like keeps them different or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm just like, pick a platform, dude. Come on, man.
We love you, Ryan.
All right.
This is so great. I would love for you to talk more about Social Media News Live, what the concept behind it is, how long it's been running, and just the whole kind of surrounding ecosystem that's happening there for you.
So do you want to go back to the very beginning, like the very beginning?
After birth,
just want to know
but anywhere beyond that is good.
Yeah, gotcha. So it's really funny. So I cut my teeth in video production back in the day when like 380 megabyte hard drives were like a brick, and it was amazing. Like how am I going to fit up that much space?
Yes.
So I've been doing video stuff forever. I started doing corporate stuff. I worked at a kind of a multimedia agency, a photography studio here in town. I did that because I had a web development agency. We had our first child, Avery, my son, and I was like, I gotta get a real job. So I started working for this company. Was their multimedia manager. That was great. It was just, it was time for me to go. And so I started my own company, and I started doing a lot of corporate videos. I did Flash websites.
Yes.
You can thank me later.
Macromedia Flash. My gosh.
Yeah.
Woo!
Shockwave, baby. I knew all that stuff. So started with that. Yeah, I mean, seriously, folks, like the front page. Remember that? Doing web development on front page, Microsoft front page for your website.
I had a front page job. I am telling you, this is amazing.
I know.
I'm vibing right now with this.
Yeah. So started doing that. Did website design for a long time. I started getting into social media because my clients were needing it. And I started this blog, and I had my company was called His Design, and I was doing all this corporate video and then websites, and I made CD-ROM. Remember those little CD-ROM business cards?
Yes.
Like I had the robot printer that would
slice
them,
and a little slice on the top.
Yeah. It would go there, and it sounded like something was going to explode in your drive when you started it up. Yeah. So I did those, but I started doing the social media stuff, and I was listening to. I was driving back from my parents lived in Kansas, and I was driving back listening to a podcast. And it was Social Media Examiner, and they did a show on Pinterest. And this lady named Cynthia Sanchez was talking about how much traffic she drove to her blog with Pinterest. And I'm like, interesting. I need traffic to my blog. I'll try that. So I started doing that. It started driving traffic to my blog, and I made a blog post called "Manly Pinterest Tips #1." And what it was, because it was. Pinterest was known, and still a little bit, that's just the women's network, stay away from it.
Yes.
And I thought, man, this is going to drive traffic, I'll do it. And so, mainly Pinterest tip #1, it went crazy. It was just a post about me, how I shared a secret board on Pinterest with my daughter, and we do stuff together. And then that led to, that was when Google Hangouts on air was really a thing, and I started doing live shows, and it was the wild west of live shows at Google Hangouts. And so I had got a show together called Manly Pinterest Tips. I had 4 guys with me. They all had huge followings. I don't know why they had me do it, but I kind of hosted the show, did that for a while, got to interview people like the producer of Pretty Woman and Under Siege. I got to get like Guy Kawasaki was the first time I met him on my show. So it was like the Wild West, and you were doing a show and everybody wanted to kind of be on it. So did that for a while, started my own show, Manly Picture Sips. That went for quite a while as a podcast and a live show. That got me my job. I was working for Social Media Examiner for about 5 years, and then I quit doing that and started my own show, Social Media is Live, and I've been doing that for 3, and that is a live show and podcast. So that's the origin story.
Man, you rocked and rolled with that. I put in a pretty tall order, but you delivered, and I'm so grateful for that.
I try.
And you say 3 years though. I mean, in internet years, that's legit, because the cycles are really, really short out here. Talk to me a little bit more about that though. The concepts, the stuff that you dive into on that show.
So for me, like, and podcasting was still pretty new, like when I got into it, but I always, from doing Google Hangouts on Air and starting to do live video, was like, if I'm doing live video and I can do a podcast, like, I'm really lazy, I can get all this content from this stuff. So that kind of led to me really, focusing on repurposing. And you mentioned even before the show that we were talking about, you saw some of my clips come up on social. So one of the things that I talk to people about and speak a lot about is that we get rid of our content too easily. Like we do our blog posts, we do our podcast, whatever, and then we're on to the next one.
Yes.
And like with the algorithms today, it is really hard for everybody to see your stuff. So I try to squeeze all the juice that I can out of a piece of content, and I have systems and procedures in place where I'm able to do that pretty quickly and actually, get it out there, put it in the queue, and it kind of does it automatically. So that's what I've been excited for. And lately, I've been speaking about using that and kind of supercharging that with AI because of all the cool AI tools. Now you can even do it faster. So it's just, that's what I'm probably ADHD, and it's like I'm crazy. And so it's like I can work on a podcast this morning, and then I can do Amazon Live, and then I can do, so I love it. So it fits right in with what I'm doing.
Do you kind of feel one of the people that's really mentored me and invested a lot in my life has always had this phrase about building in public, like just for years and years and years. One of the original people that would like blog about blogging, and it always felt too meta for me because it's like, but you're doing the thing that you're talking about doing, and that's actually, but it was working for him, and he did amazing at it. I mean, he was a really well-known thought leader in that space, and for podcasting, there is this kind of sense in which we feel like we're building in public as we're doing this. You're doing a live show, you have the content showing up on YouTube and other places, and then it's getting repurposed and cut down into shorts and all these different ways for it to show up and different opportunities for people to engage with it. I would love your thoughts on, for me, this is actually just a free counseling session for me.
Right, it's good, right, yeah. Free, that's what I do too. It's free consulting. I love it, yeah.
For me though, like I always bump up against, like, I've always wanted to produce that, like overproduce that piece of content and just say like, let's nuance it, let's make it down to the frame level and make sure we really respect people's attention and make sure that we really like just put a lot of love into that. And I do see the reality that, man, it's so hard for everybody to see it because you're one ping on the radar and then you're gone. So can you speak to that tension at all about, being able to do something overproduced versus not necessarily killing and sacrificing all quality everywhere in the name of building in public constantly?
So one of my favorite authors and speakers is John Acuff, and he has this saying, and I use it in all my presentations, where he says, 80% perfect and shared with the world always changes more lives than 100% perfect and stuck in your head. And I struggle with that so much because I am like, I cut my teeth on video. Like, you want to make everything good, and now you have to get it to a point and let it go. And to be honest, I mean, there is a level, and it depends on your audience. And like, if you're doing like the theater of the mind, where you're really producing a show and telling a story, and you have sound effects, that's different from doing an interview show where you're just making sure that the coughing's gone and the ums and ahs, aren't too bad. So that you got to know your audience and what you're actually doing, but you also want to have that perfectionist mindset and be professional and stand out above everybody else. And so, like, I talk a lot about AI. I don't think the tools are there yet to automatically give them my show and have them find clips for me and then export it out. It's getting close. It's not there yet. I still use Descript, and that's one of the things that I use every day for podcasting and all this stuff. But I cut it out, and I use that to kind of winnow down my editing process, and then I kind of polish it from there. But some of those automatic tools, they just aren't there yet. And there is that point where you can make it better. than other people by just adding a little bit of spark and taking a little bit more time to craft that. But it is a balance. You're right.
I feel that. I do feel that that sense in which it is getting there. I mean, give it 6 months, man. Give it 12 months, and holy mackerel. We were just talking last night, a friend of mine with about Adobe Premiere. They're incorporating Firefly into that now, so it's like you're able. You're like, oh my gosh, I could just draw a circle around that tie and have it change color. That's craziness. What advice do you have for somebody who's like, well, I do want to have a conversation with the world. I do want to engage with people in the name of my brand. I do want to have that connection that shows up there that is that way with the internet. But like you said, it doesn't necessarily, there are some spaces that do feel like the Wild West for sure. And in some ways it's also iterative, like everything old is new again. It's like Twitter Spaces. Wait, wasn't that just Google? Hey, never mind. It's
exactly.
like all of that. But what advice would you have for somebody who is kind of jumping in the fray from the start? Like they haven't had the audience, they haven't had anything to kind of parlay into something new. How would you suggest somebody kind of get moving, especially with this frontier of AI coming over them?
So let's say, let's just go to like you're starting a podcast. I would really think hard about doing video with it, even though that kind of makes people cringe inside and it's hard. There was even a study that came out, I think it was today, from Tom Webster about how important video is to be on YouTube, as you know, because it was like 65% of people discover podcasts on YouTube. And so like that's a big deal, and you want to get that market, especially if you're just getting started. But do it in a way that's easy. Like the technology now, like I use Ecamm for my show. By the time I'm done, I have all my tracks in audio. They're separated, ready to be edited. All my video tracks are separated because I'm using Mac Silicone and it can do that now. So repurposing is really easy with something like Descript. So dive into the tools, and you can just do a little bit, but just don't do a show, post it to your web host or your podcast host and be done with it, because with the algorithms today, they're not finding it. But just get one piece to start with, like get one little clip that you can use everywhere and use that and post it with some of these new tools that are out that can do that in all those multiple spaces, because I think it will serve you in the long run. When I first started, that was unheard of. It was a big mess, but now it's really easy with the technology to do that, to kind of go everywhere.
I love that. What doesn't exist yet in the space of AI and social media production and everything that you see that it's assisting with yet that you'd like to see happen here in the future, where it's like, man, if the next 6 months, next year and a half go the way that I think that they might, or the way that I hope that they do, this is what maybe I would see being possible?
So I think what you're going to be able to ingest into AI is going to become bigger and bigger. When I first started using AI, it was hard to get like my entire show notes into like ChatGPT. I had to use these splitters and things. Now with Claude, it can actually, I just had a deep dive on my show about podcasting. We had 5 episodes. That's pretty much 5 hours of transcripts. I was able to put that all into PDF, and it was able to give me an ebook outline. Boom. And now I'm using it to write the ebook that I'm going to be able to put to Kindle. So I think that's going to happen more. And I know that scares a lot of people. I would be, if my job was just to write social posts for a company, I'd be nervous, because it can do it really fast. I mean, show notes and stuff, like I used to dread Thursdays before I got ready for my show. Now it's so easy to do. It sounds good. I can train it to do what I want. It's just going to get better on that standpoint. If you're scared about it, like, I shouldn't even start a podcast because they're going to be doing podcasts, and I think if you're a podcaster and a live video producer or do live video, that thing, it's just going to be really hard for AI to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I can mimic your voice already. Like I took, for one, I just did a presentation at Momentum, Lou Mangello's Momentum, and he did my introduction, and I said, that's not really good. And I was just with 1 minute of his voice able to clone him with his inflections and everything, and had him do the speech that I thought I should give, like how good looking Jeff is and all that stuff. It was really funny, but it's really powerful. But it's not going to have interaction like you and I are doing right now. It's not going to be able on my live show to know that Gary Stockton's in the audience and he shows up every week and he's a musician, and that he can, I can bring him and talk kind of that insider baseball stuff during the show. It's not going to be able to do those interactions. I don't know if it could ever do that. And so that's why I think podcasting and live video and creating your own video, is pretty safe for now. Written word's going to be a little bit iffy, because it's really hard to tell now. Am I really talking, to Andrew, like, because it's, it sounds like him, but is it really him? So podcasting, live video, I think is a really important part of that.
That's good. That's so good, Jeff. What advice do you have for somebody that's thinking like, maybe they are afraid, like, oh gosh, I see this thing, it's about to eat my lunch. And I've been thinking more task focused versus outcome focused. So like I'm just doing my job, whatever that was. And then
right.
I realize now, like, oh my gosh, I need to be the person kind of brokering these things instead of the person, being eaten up by them. Any good first steps or first ideas for somebody that's like, I really need to level up my level of thinking?
So I read a quote that was somebody said, like, AI is not going to take your job. It's a guy who's using AI who's going to take your job. So my thing is like, you just need to learn about it and use it as a tool. It is a great tool. People don't understand, like they were kind of playing with it like a little, just kind of a fun little thing, but it's great for combining ideas. Now it's not going to give you wisdom. Like, it's artificial intelligence, not real intelligence, but it can combine things that can spark your creativity. It is a fabulous tool for combining things. For example, I had two guys who I have on my show a couple of times. They're great Amazon influencers. They're the Dealcasters. And I said, hey, Chris, what do you want to talk about? And he gave me something. I said, hey, Jim, what do you want to talk about? And they gave me two different things. I'm like, oh, crap. Now I've got to figure out how to do this. Yeah. Well, I was able to take that and said, hey, ChatGPT, take these two ideas. I want to do a show about this, but don't overlap. Give me 3 different sections to my show and write 5 questions for each.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that just saved me a ton of time. Now, I didn't use it verbatim. You craft it to your own show and your audience. That saved me a ton of time.
That's right.
So being able to combine things in that way is really, really cool. And like come up with some new ideas. Like even that, when I was mentioning that ebook earlier, I was like, okay, I have all this content that I did for podcasting. What are some great ways I can repurpose it? And it spit out that as one of the ideas. So using it to brainstorm with can be really, really helpful.
I love that. I
don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Or not, but,
no, it does. It does. And it's that whole, everybody's, even the software is being termed Copilot now. People are always talking about having an internal Copilot showing up inside the software that helps you do what you're trying to do better. Also examples of that. There's been times where I've had a podcast guest and said, hey, are you familiar with them? They're actually notable enough that yes, it is. And then you can say, like, listen, I know that they do this and they do that, but what are some lesser known questions about them that I could ask that would still give value? And it's just like, like 3 or 4 things that I haven't thought of. And I'm like, that's amazing. That has done some leverage, some brainstorming for me. And I just saw, what was it, Stack Overflow. They let go of, 25% of their workforce. And it's like, yes, it is shifting the landscape, but at the same time, I am excited. I am excited about what the future of it is.
The exact same example I was pitching something to a potential client, and I was like talking with them, and I had, hey, ChatGPT, I'm talking about this, this, and this. What questions am I not asking?
Yes.
And it came out with one, and I used one, and the guy stopped, and he didn't know I did this, but he goes, no one's ever asked me that question. And I'm like, and I got the gig because I was so insightful.
Yes.
But it was a brainstorming thing. It's something that if I thought and had hours to think of, I probably would have come up with, but being able to do that, I just think is super cool.
In some ways it feels like it's never more needed, because in a world of decision fatigue, you have somebody that's actually sitting there thinking through all the different nuances of something in a way that I haven't. I'm grateful for that. So what a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Talk to me more about what kind and style of content do you talk about in Social Media News Live?
Yes. So it started out like social media news, because there's always news, like Twitter's doing this or X is doing this and like all this stuff. We go more to all sorts of thing in that field, and I'll give you a little secret right here for your listeners. We're changing the name. We're in the middle of a rebrand. I think this is the first time I've announced it.
Holy moly!
It's going to be it's not going to be Social Media News Live. It's going to be Creator News Live.
I like it.
So because I can get. One, social media has kind of a negative connotation anymore, and we already talk about. I have creators on, and I love diving in to what makes people creative and how we can use that in our business. And so, Creator News Live just seems like it'd be a better fit right now. So we're in the process. You know how it is. It's in the process of moving all that, changing the jingle, the artwork, all that stuff. So it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
But announce it here first on your show. Look at that.
I love it. I promise I won't make it a snippet, but I will put it. I'll keep it in the show. That's amazing.
Okay.
No, but I love that because it more accurately reflects how it's broadening. It's more aligned with the topic matter there. So that's really cool.
And there's the whole maker space too, which will fit into that too. There, the makers, the creators, the people, and there's so many people that I would love to talk to. I'd love to talk to the Imagineers at Disney and what they're behind their creative process. And so this, I think, will open up some of those doors to talk to people about it that way.
All right, final fun question. Hopefully, top interview you would love to have, or guest on your show you would love to have, pertinent to topic or not. It doesn't necessarily have to be social media / creator related, but living individual that you would love to interview and have hanging out.
Okay, living. Has to be living.
Sorry.
Let's see. I would like to, gosh, there's so many. The business space. Kevin Feige, who did Marvel stuff. I'm kind of a Disney Marvel geek. He would be fun just to behind his creative process of the world that he built or helped craft. Like, everyone's kind of got superhero fatigue, but when it first started, that was a big deal, and that was really risky.
Yep.
And what it became and how they did overarching things and how they planned it out. I think that's really, really fascinating. Trying to think of who else I would... there's so many people. And that's what's so fun about having a show is like I can go down those rabbit holes, and if they will answer my calls or emails, then I can have them on my show. And it's been amazing. That's one of the, I'm going to go circle back to what you said to tell somebody who was just starting out. I love interview shows, and apparently you do too, because you get to ask and talk to people and go back and forth, but you learn so much stuff, and then you share that learning with your audience. It is so much fun, and it can put you in front of so many people that you may not have ever talked with before. So it opens up, I'm in Longview, Texas. Like nobody understands what I do here. Like nobody. But I can talk with Andrew and Eric Fisher and some other people who are in my space, and they understand. And being able to do that and share that with an audience is so super cool. And the stuff we can do now, oh my gosh, your mind just explodes with the possibilities of what can happen.
I can't say it any better. That's perfect. Jeff, I'm super, super grateful to have you hanging out with me, because this is so cool. I love hearing what you're doing, and I'd also love for you to share just a couple of ways that people can engage with you outside of the show itself or outside of the show as well. That's fine.
Yeah, the best way, I'm Jeff Sieh everywhere, and it's spelled Jeff, S as in Sam, IEH. That's I before E, especially in C. That's how my mom made me remember it. And I'm that way on all the socials, but you can find me at socialbenewslive.com. That's where we do the show, and we're live every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Live, all the spots. We're going crazy there. So it's a lot of fun.
Jeff, I so appreciate it.
And LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeff. This is awesome.
All right.
And our thanks to all of you for listening. If you're looking for a quick way to make our day, a review in iTunes or subscribing to this podcast would mean the world to us. Our thanks to Small Pond Productions for sponsoring. And this was The Pro Guide. Learn from leaders, change your life. See you, everybody.